betrayed with a kiss.
Hi, and welcome back to our series on Cross-Examination Season 2. We are talking to Dr. Hani, and he's discussing with us the biological process that Christ went through on the cross. And the fact that he was, a young man, 33 years old, and within hours on the cross, he passed away.
So we want to just maybe summarize what we spoke about last time, Dr. Hani. You said that there were 3 possibilities of his death. Yes. One being the immense loss of blood, starting from the night before his crucifixion. 2 would be the shock of the pain that he endured throughout this entire day. And then the last, which is the less probable cause, which was shock due to infection. Mm-hmm. Would you like to elaborate on what kind of infection? You said something about horses.
Yeah. Last time we spoke about what we call the septic shock. And sepsis means a very bad infection. Some claim, although it's very debatable, and I'll say why, that these nails were never cleansed before they push it into our Lord's hands and feet. And there may be some what we call fecal spores or tetanus that could have been transmitted through this unclean nails through the blood of our Lord. And tetanus, we don't see it anymore. This is one of the infections that we're already, with the vaccinations, we don't get it anymore. But people who get tetanus, they get what we call respiratory paralysis, because all the muscles of the respiration, whether it's a diaphragm or the muscles of the chest, become spasmodic. So a person cannot breathe, and he goes into severe convulsions and tetany because all the muscles, almost like get what you call Charlie horse now, become spasmodic. It's debated because it takes at least 24 hours for this infection to occur, and of course we don't have that in our Lord's story.
But wouldn't you say all the added stresses could...
Definitely there are more than one factor. It could be the neurogenic shock, it could be the heart problems, could be some infection, maybe the 3 together. But the first 2 theories are more acceptable than the tetanus story.
So you were talking about Christ being tortured.
Yes.
The night prior to, and he was...
The night prior, there was some torture. Remember, the night prior was really, first he was alone in Gethsemane, then he was taken to Caiaphas' house, and in Caiaphas' house, he had a rough night. All through this night, he has a rough night. During this night, he was interrogated, he was slapped, he was flogged, but not as much as the morning, and he was, of course, deprived of all food and drink. But that's what happened at night. But I think you probably meant in the morning. In the first hour of Friday, first and third hour, which means 6 o'clock and 9 o'clock, they took him to Pontius Pilate. Because by their law, as you have heard from my friend Bishoy, I'm sure he mentioned that they were not supposed to make any final executive or legislative decision, so they take him to Pilate. Pilate ordered the flogging. And if you allow me, the flogging medically is a very, very difficult thing. And if there are children in the audience, I will try to be as gentle as I can. But the Roman way of flogging consists of really a wooden handle with leather thongs, and at the end there are small bones of sheep bones or small balls of metal. And usually there are 2 people flogging, and usually the man is standing, the person to be flogged, on a pole, and they tie his hands on the pole, and so even if he falls on the knees, but he will never leave. And both of them from both sides. And the direction, as you probably will see in one of the images that I'll put, the directions are really going, if this is Christ's body, is going backward like this, from his shoulders down towards the spinal cord. Again, I'm trying to be as gentle as I can, but you can imagine how much he lost of muscle, skin, and blood. Those pieces go in and catch skin and muscle and rips it out. So I don't have to explain how much pain, how much blood lost, and people used to die just by flogging. I mean, flogging alone sometimes can result in death. And that's why when Pontius Pilate saw him completely red, he thought that that's well enough and there is no need to the cross. So that's the flogging or the scourging as we call it.
Can flogging break bones?
Unless it comes to the shoulder, yes, but usually these people are very experienced. And there are some claims that there were a taller guy and a shorter guy, and the shorter guy was more vicious. We get this information from analyzing the Shroud of Turin, and there were implications that the shorter guy was much more vicious, so it was more deeper into the tissues. You may take this, you may debate it, but at the end there were two of them.
Dr. Hani, we kind of understand now what happened to him prior to the actual crucifixion and kind of what he experienced and the pain he went through. But now, going to the actual crucifixion,
yeah.
Being hung on the cross, can you explain to us biologically and medically how that affects the body?
Yeah, so that's what happened. Our Lord got flogged, scourged, and then he walked, we think, about 4 kilometers from Caiaphas' house to Pontius' house, about 4 kilometers with Israel's or Palestine's today's geography, which we call it the Via Dolorosa, in other words. During this time, he fell at least 2 times, some claim 3 times. Each time he falls under the big horizontal plate of the cross, which they claim the cross is 150 pounds. The wooden cross is about 150 pounds. So imagine 2 times he fell down. Then Simon the Cyrenian helped him carrying the cross. He arrives on Golgotha. Let us talk about the nail first. I did explain how the nail is as dirty as they come. But medically speaking, the nail is about 5 to 7 inches, so it's about that long. And it's a piece of metal, of course not cleansed and not really smooth. But the whole point is the Roman soldiers are very experienced in putting the nail on the wrist. And in a cross-section of the wrist that hopefully you can see the picture, basically there are many small bones in this area. There are 2 rows of small bones. Amazingly, when the British have tried using the cross in some of the corpses, they actually find if you nail a cross, even without experience, it will go through the 7 bones without breaking anyone. So that was tried, and that's published in some of their, I think they call it the toxicology journal. The reason this is important, because if it is between here and they have gone in some corpuses and tried some experiments, you can hang a person who is about 150 pounds, like let's say my weight, you can hang him on 2 without ripping out. Although if you put it here, you can rip out because there is nothing that can stop the body from coming down. So number one, we need to understand that definitely it went through the wrist. Definitely none of his bones were fractured, which is a prophecy. Third, that was tried both by the Germans and by the British on corpuses, and that was shown to be true. So now the medical part, again, I don't want to be so figurative, but there are a lot of nerves go through here and 2 main big vessels. There is one big vessel here and another one here. So there was a lot of blood. But more importantly, and if you do this, you can sometimes get a signal that if anyone tries doing this while I'm doing it, you feel as if there is an impulse going here. And this is a very tiny impulse. I mean, this is my finger and this is my flesh. But imagine this is a wooden hammer or a hammer and a real nail. These signals could have been going on through all the time of the cross, from 12 noon until he died, probably 3 or 4 p.m. So 3 hours of electric impulses going through his hands. Now, if I talk about the nail on the toes and the feet, and this is also was tried clinically, and in a cross-section that you could see on the foot. Again, it did not happen in the area of the toes, but happened much closer here towards the ankle. And it probably went between the second and the third toes. So if this is my foot, so went between the second and third toe. The reason this is important, and this is may come in the next session, is Christ will depend on this nail to breathe. He will be standing on this nail. So on this, unless this nail is really in an area that's really secure, does not get avulsed, does not get sort of ripped, he will not be able to breathe. And again, that's the experienced soldiers of the Roman crucifixion. Again, I'm very sorry if I'm giving some figurative information.
Thank you, Dr. Hani. I mean, this has been very informative, and we've learned a lot about the biological process that Christ went through on the cross and how at such a young age he was the first to pass on the cross. Please join us next time with the continuation of Cross-Examination Season 2. Thank you.